You can share it from my page or Damon's page. I'm sharing it into some of the groups right now.
Check and see. I think Darren's trying to call in.
Oh, yes, I see him. Sorry, my bad. I was trying to get us set up. There he goes.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Good
Morning.
How are you?
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start now. We're live. Good morning. You are tuned into Black Westchester Presents Policing the Black Community Part 3 with AJ Woodson and Damon K. Jones. And again, like parts 1 and 2, which you can find on blackwestchester.com. Damon has put together an all-star panel of criminal law, criminal justice professionals. Damon, say what's up and introduce your panel.
Well, we're gonna let
everybody introduce themselves.
Yeah.
Well, you want to say a couple words in the beginning?
Yeah, I think it's very important that people see Black law enforcement professionals, criminal justice professionals talking about the issues. I've been watching the news since the killing of George Floyd, and a lot of commentators are missing the mark totally on what needs to be done and even how to change it. This morning, Cory Booker was on MSNBC, and he really offered no solutions, just a lot of political talk. And it's a shame because he left his police department when he was the mayor in Newark under federal consent decree. His police department, while he was mayor in Newark, had multiple cases of police brutality and police misconduct. And basically, the police department was in the shambles. Anyone can pull up the frontline report with the new mayor and the new mayor going through the police department, and you can see for yourself. So we are seeing that our Black politicians really do not have the solutions, and they do not want to talk to Black law enforcement that are on the front line every day. So I thought to put this together, another one, so we could continue to have these conversations with different people to get different perspectives. But I think we all are on the same page at the end of the day, that the system itself needs to be changed and legislation and laws need to be passed by elected officials. That being said,
also real quick, as everybody's doing the introduction, can everyone mute their microphones when they're not talking so that we would eliminate background noise? Because we all, at some point, I'm gonna mute. You're gonna see mine on mute because there'll be background noise here too. So that way we can hear the person that is talking. Damon, go ahead and let the order you want people to introduce themselves.
Oh, of course, ladies first. And Latonya, good morning.
My name is Latonya Watkins. Good morning, brothers. I salute you and I appreciate you, and you are loved by me. I need you to know that this morning. I am an attorney in Rockland County, New York. My primary practice is criminal defense, but I also handle civil rights, personal injury, and other areas of law. I'm very proud to be here. Damon and AJ, thank you very much.
Thank you. My brother, we met through email, and I'm glad my brother's here. And we have the same first name, so he's going to be powerful, right? Welcome, Dr. Damon Brown. Brother Damon, please introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, Damon, and thank you, AJ. I'm Damon Brown, and I'm a former Pittsburgh police officer and detective. I then went into international policing, where I went overseas rebuilding war-torn police departments, which were national police departments under the auspices of the International Narcotics and Law Enforcement bureau within the Department of State. I am a leadership expert. I work with the leadership in these national departments, and I'm currently in the training arm with the Department of State.
That's great. Thank you, brother. Thank you for being here. This is going. I think we're gonna have a great conversation. And next up is another brother from another mother, brother Jerome Rice, who doctor. I gotta add that to it too, Dr. Jerome Rice. Introduce yourself, brother.
Peace and blessings. First and foremost, thank you to both Brother Damien and Woodson for staying on the front line of civil justice. Not everybody is battle tested. My name is Jerome Rice. I'm from the Bronx, now living in Florida. I'm the former president of the branch president of the NAACP. I retired from correction as a captain and retired from the military. And as he says, I have my doctorate degree, and I'm ready to get this conversation rolling. I got issues.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And brother Darren Green, you know, I see you moving.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm moving, but I'll be stable in a minute. Good morning, folks. How y'all doing? I am Darren Green, president of the Blacks in Law Enforcement of America, Long Island chapter. I'm also 26 years in law enforcement and corrections. 14 years I spent as a training instructor, you know, teaching, you know, the very thing that we're going to be talking about, which is very critical, which is, you know, excessive force, use of force, and knowing when to de-escalate from force. So I'm considered I am a law enforcement expert as well. We've done a lot of hosting, a lot of teaching around the country. I mean, a lot of teaching also through the tri-state area. So I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm looking forward because everything that you guys just said, everything that Damon just said, now one person is hitting the mark. Now one person is hitting the issue, and that's what we're gonna get on the bones this morning about. It's the issue, and the issue is how was this man killed? So Damon, I'll let you until I'm ready to flow into that. Go ahead and proceed and do what you could. And thank you, brothers, for allowing me to be with you and sister.
And we have Alan Davis.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Okay, I didn't know if I was going to be observer, but yeah, I'm retired New York City Police. I got 20 years in the department. I have another 10 years working in the international arena, visiting, helping to assess and to train and to monitor police departments abroad. So I'm happy to contribute any way I can. Thank you.
Okay, brother, if you don't mind, I don't know, turn your video on so people can see you.
Okay. All right. Let me see.
And we got one more panelist that David forgot to send a link to, Sister Sharman.
I'm sorry. I thought you were sending it to her. I'm sorry. Hey, sister.
She just tuned in. Please introduce yourself real quick.
Yay, another sister. Thank you. Better late than never. Hey.
I know she's ready to go. I know she's ready.
How's everybody?
Panelists that David forgot to send a link to, Sister Sharman. Somebody's audio's.
I'm sorry. Hey, sister.
Hey, you guys. Yeah, I got you up in another window. Let me turn it off.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. I'm sorry.
Okay. Introduce yourself to the panel, to the people.
I'm Sharman Leon. I'm a police sergeant here in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm the officer in charge of recruitment for police, fire, and EMS for the city of Cleveland.
This sister right here, we did the first one, how the police in the Black community won. And I got several messages from the sister. She was like, oh my God, I took some notes, and she wrote a video response to us, and we had to get her in the conversation. And we invited the next gentleman in, and I put the link to his story in the chat. He broke a story about some police corruption in the Mount Vernon Police Department that wasn't being, and the whistleblower cop. and some secret audio tapes, and it was a very big story, and I wanted him to join the conversation. George, introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me here. I've been a fan of Westchester.com for quite a while. Basically, I'm a reporter, an investigative reporter at a website called Gothamist.com, which is part of WNYC, New York Public Radio. And for the last few months, we've been investigating allegations of police misconduct and corruption, both in Mount Vernon and in Westchester more broadly. A lot of the allegations have long been raised in the community, particularly in Mount Vernon. A few months ago, we obtained confidential police files showing numerous civilian complaints of brutality and corruption, officers allegedly stealing from business owners and people at car stops. In nearly every case that we reviewed, an internal police investigation dismissed the civilian concerns. So months later now, we obtained these secret recordings from a Black whistleblower cop within the force who recorded his colleagues corroborating or supporting many of the same types of allegations the civilians have been making for years. So it's a really interesting time right now to be reporting on Mount Vernon, Westchester County.
Right. So, Damon, you want to do a little intro? I mean, this is part 3 for people that didn't see part 1 and part 2. Very, very great conversations, big panels. They are located on blackwestchester.com. We had to come back and do it again. And I just want to say, I said this at the end of the other 2 shows, what you have here is a panel of Blacks in law enforcement that are going to speak in ways you've never heard Blacks in law enforcement speak and before, and may not hear again. And some of the information that was given in part 1 and part 2 and part 3, this should be a DVD that people should have to pay for, because the information that is given out here, like, I mean, it's just so, I hope people, you know, I want to thank those who are watching live now and those who will watch it, the video later on the website. But take heed and listen. And I want to thank all of you for all the things you do individually and collectively, because I mean, you know, all of y'all, I've known y'all in one aspect or another in the struggle. You know what I'm saying? And I respect all of you. Damon, you want to take it away?
Yeah, I you know what? I wanted to start off, it's great that we have a lot of people that's in training, because I noticed on the news last night that the officer that had his knee on Brother Floyd's neck was actually the FTO. He was the field training officer. Now, first of all, at the beginning, I applaud the chief. I applaud the mayor for acting within 24 hours. But once I found out that he was a field training officer and he had over 16 complaints, first of all, how the hell did he remain a field training officer with 16 complaints? He should never been a field training officer with all those complaints. And I see why they fired him real quick. And I want us to also talk about, I understand a little bit now why the 2 cops that had 3 months on the job really didn't push back on him. See, you know, and we have to talk about that, because he was the field training officer. He was the senior officer, right? Because ain't nobody, you know, I've been on a job for 30 years. Ain't nobody with 3 months gonna tell me what to do, right? It is what it is, you know. But now we see how there wasn't any push, because everybody questioned why the cops didn't do anything, the other ones. Well, I know at least for the ones with the 3 months, I understand, I kind of see why they didn't do anything, because he was the one training them. So let's talk about that. Let's talk. Sister Leah, I want you to go first. And let's talk about that, the mindset, and even questioning why was this man even training anybody?
Well, that's the real question, right? I mean, 17 complaints, you know. Here in Cleveland, you know, we're under a consent decree. We're in a settlement agreement with the Department of Justice. They came in and did an investigation and found pattern and practices of abuse And so we have many deliverables that we have to meet in that agreement. Now, one of the things was about the Office of Professional Standards. That's the unit that receives complaints of misconduct against officers. And what the citizens of Cleveland said is that we don't believe the police can police the police, right? Because it used to be all police sergeants. It's where I was assigned when I was first promoted. And so now it is all civilian. Once they removed all the police officers, I remained for another 1.5 years as a liaison. And it's all civilians who are, because come on, y'all, this ain't rocket science, right? Yes, there are things that you don't know unless you've been out there in the field. But if our minimum qualifications are high school diploma or GED, 21 years old, a valid driver's license, and no felonies, I mean, right? I mean, that ain't hard. So if we can understand it, if you can, if that's the qualification for you to get into the police academy, that means that the general public, they can figure it out, right? So they can look at those complaints, they can learn policy, they can learn the ordinances and the laws and make a good determination. So did they not have a policy regarding, you know, where's the threshold? Where's the early intervention program for somebody who is receiving those type of complaints? And if you get complaints all across the city, you knocking heads in the 4th district, and you also got complaints in the 5th district of kicking somebody in the head, then you kick people in the head. These people don't know each other, you know, if they're filing these complaints, and it's a pattern of that. And so where is the early intervention? And again, like you said, is it not in their policy? If that's the case, first of all, why are you even still here? Let alone becoming a field training officer. So I don't know if their issue is the issue that a lot of departments face, you know, with scrutiny. When you have people who are not emotionally mature, this kind of news coverage can hurt their feelings. They get their feelings hurt. It's like, oh, well, then I just don't want to be a cop anymore. Like when I hear that from fellow officers of, well, then we just won't show up. I think you probably don't need to have a badge and a gun. If your feelings are hurt that easy, you probably are not adequately placed, right? But if the situation is such that because of that, you have people who don't want to step up to be FTOs, so you can only go with those who step up or who you mandate to do it, and that's still a problem. So the community has to stay, and which I believe they ask for now, you know, the transparency on complaints in the division. And I read something, and I'm so looking forward to learn from so many of you. And I think there's a brother on here, and it may be Rice, PhD, who is the new historian of the history of policing in the United States. So excited about that. But yeah, so that's my take on that.
Hey, brother Darren. Trying to get hey, brother Darren. So is there any good old boy networking training that these Jerome laughing? Is there any good old boy networking training? So because you know, it's no clue. Many of these police departments are majority white, even though we have black officers and a lot of managers, you know, white. Even you might have a black commissioner, but underneath him is lily white. So is there a good old boy network that these type of officers slip through the cracks or let through the cracks, and they're able to continue to have these positions, even having complaints in their folders?
Well, let me say this. You know, in our particular academy, we didn't have a good old boys network. You know, we trained the way it was supposed to be done as the standards, because we cross-trained with a lot of other agencies, including the FBI, other state agencies, and Homeland Security. So what we did, we would sit down and look at all the videos and you know, training techniques from all the other agencies. So we didn't really have that. We did have a couple of rogue guys, like a rogue instructor, you know, that at one point in time just decided that he didn't want to teach what we decided to teach, And he wanted to use YouTube videos. He wanted to be that guy that was doing the things that are happening now. And we was like, you can't come to training no more, okay? Because, you know, that's not what we teach and that's not what we train, and we're not going to let you start teaching something that's not, you know, as per our policy. What I will tell you is that what happens is people talk to their friends, people talk to their uncles, cousins, and nephews, and all of their uncles, cousins, and nephews that work on these other jobs and other law enforcement entities, they start to do something different. Regardless of what they're trained, when you got guys taking MMA and doing all this other training on their own, they come to work and they go, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6, which means they start instituting the things that they learned on the street. And they're able to get away with it because administratively, nobody is checking the policy to see exactly what they did. Now, you know, where I work, yes, there was checks and balances. Like when you fill out your reports, what did you do? Well, it's easy to have what we call sometimes creative writing. Now, I didn't do what they told me to do, but I'm going to put on this paper that I did it, okay, because we know what the terminology should be. And what happens is then when you have a cluster of people at one point in time that are doing things that are unjustifiable, but you justify it on paper, then nobody questions it because there's no video transaction of it. What we see now that we now have video transactions of things, and this is what has been ultimately missing. And out of all of the things that have been said, you know, even this morning you said to Cory Booker that he basically kept his speech political and didn't touch the mark. This is the mark, y'all. The mark is, no matter what we talk about, and there's a lot of information that will come, one of the main issues is we got to have people that train properly and that there's policy and procedure on use of force, on escalation of force, and de-escalation of force. And what that means is that it has to be enforced. So you could write the policy and put it in black and white. But when you have a commissioner or a deputy commissioner or an inspector of a department, particularly now in some of these police departments, and they don't check to say, hey, you know what, this guy had his knee on his neck. Well, we don't train like that. What they often say is that, okay, John screwed up. So John screwed up, take John off the street, put John behind the desk, and let's keep it moving. And that's what they've generally been doing for years. What we're looking for now, what we should be looking for is that not only do we want these policies and procedures and training implemented on the proper way that you should be doing it, but we need those in charge of the training, in charge to be enforcing, because there's no enforcement of these things. They are just letting it go by the wayside. And until we force that, one, let's get this on paper. Let's get these policies. This is how you train. This is what you would do. You would do A, B, C, and D. You know, when you get all of those things in writing and then train it, and then there's going to be another issue. The other issue is going to be, oh, we don't have enough money. If we have a larger police department, we don't have enough money to train. We can't pull all our officers off the street and then retrain all of these officers. So now we got a problem. Figure it out. That's our point. When you have a crisis, which is something that you've never gone up against, you figure it out. So when this is a life and death issue now, okay, then you need to figure it out. One other point I'm going to make before I go back to this. One of the brothers has stated earlier about, you said earlier, Damon, about why the 3 other officers were standing still and they didn't do anything. Well, let me tell you why I think that could be a cop-out and should be labeled as a cop-out. Because even though he might have been their field training officer, let me tell you one of the things that we trained, that I taught and got certified. I'm one of the only guys that was in my department that was certified this. You know, it was 2 of us, which is ethics in law enforcement. And ethics in law enforcement is certified by DOJ. It's a DOJ program. Okay, all the police. So when you train our new recruits, we train them in ethics in law enforcement. In plain clothes and civilians, there's no police officers in the room, even though you are. Everybody's a civilian. And what we do is we go through this program, and it's an 8-hour course that they get before they eat, right after they get sworn in. And we give them this course so that we show them, and the ethical background is that you make decisions for yourself. We ask you, what are your goals? What are your morals? What are your values? And then at the end of the day, we break it down and go, listen, you chose your goals, you chose your code, you chose your values, you chose your morals. This is what you chose. I didn't write it, you did. So if you make a poor decision or a poor mistake, this is what you're giving up. And then there's checks. You're giving up your health. You're giving up your money. You're giving up your wealth. You're giving up your job because you chose to make a poor decision. So to say that they stood there and did nothing, they're still culpable. They're still liable because there's a moral code. There's an ethical code that they have to stand by. Like you said, if somebody tells you go punch this dude in the face, you know that's wrong. So you just don't do that. Yo, go shoot that dude. No, I'm not doing that because you know it's wrong.
Right.
So let me get off my soapbox. Yeah, go ahead.
Brother Jerome, take it. Oh, come off mute, brother. You gotta come off mute.
How's that?
There you go.
Better.
I'm already messing up. Listen, Marcus Garvey said, intelligence rules the world and ignorance carries the burden. Brother Green got it right. Let me say this. There's only 3 things we all do whenever we do something wrong. We blame, we justify, and we make excuses. Those are called the 3 tendencies. It wasn't until this officer got arrested, now he has a story to tell. Mm-hmm. That's unacceptable. Mm-hmm. And then you got to point the finger at those who look just like us wearing the same shield. That individual that had his knee on Brother Floyd's neck, he had his hands in his pocket. So that shows, at least me being in law enforcement, that he was comfortable doing this and he had done this before. And what disturbs me is that prior to George Floyd's death, he had done it to someone else in front of guys like you and I. And guys like you and I had looked the other way. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that you're black and that you want your rights to be protected, but you look the other way when your coworker do something wrong, when you're violating somebody else's rights. And so the problem is, here's the thing that is we need to get a grip on. When everybody is finished, I want you to go to a site. It's called CLEA, C-L-E-A. Mm-hmm. And that stands for the Commission of Accreditation for Law Enforcement. These people are supposed to be the gold standard for how police is supposed to behave. Now, when you go to the site, I noticed something changed all of a sudden. I noticed there's a black group, fraternal group, that is now on the front page of that group called Noble.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And listen, I tell you, I got a lot of issues with, on one end, you want to be on Showtime at the Apollo, but on the other end, you want to talk about stand up, I set you free. And CLEA sets the standards for all police departments. Mm-hmm. So if we want to fix this problem, one of the things we need to do is deal with CLEA. Then we got to deal with people that are supposed to be in these fraternal organizations that wants to be down with CLEA. That is wrong. Now, there was something else I wanted to talk about. Oh, comfortable. I think Brother Damon Jones talked about people that are working in these administrative office. A lot of the people I know in correction, they're black. They're working for these chiefs. They're working for these soup wardens, et cetera. They're black. And when they get into those positions, they forget that they're black. They forget that they're officers. In fact, most of those positions are for non-uniform personnel. You are hired to be an officer, but you want to type and talk crap to the same people that look just like you. There is a whole lot of stuff that we need to talk about. Now we're going to talk about control theory. You can call it choice theory or control theory. there's been a lot of people that contribute to the negative makeup of Black people. One of them is social media. Social media, every time you turn on Facebook and Twitter and all this other stuff, there is somebody else posting something negative about people of color. The other thing is the newspaper. I've been in many fights with the New York Post, but there's been newspaper mischaracterizing people of color. And then there is tell lie vision. Tell lies vision that we all like to turn on the TV and we see all the time people of color that is always viewed in a negative manner. And then last, the stock in tap dancing has gone up. When you look at guys like Cory Booker and other Black politicians, that's why stock in tap dancing has gone up. They refuse to address the situation and want to blame, justify, and make excuses. I have a lot more I want to talk about, but I want to steal none of these sisters' thunder. With that, you've just been notified.
Brother Damon, you know, I know, brother, you've been,
yeah, I have a couple of things to comment.
I know you do.
Yeah. Well, you know, the first thing is that, you know, Charmin, you're talking about, you know, the consent decree. And I come from Pittsburgh Police, and I know the consent decree very well because we were the very first to have the consent decree. And what happened in that consent decree was that they had taken it, you know, the white police officers, the white administration had taken it and used it to penalize officers they didn't like, and many times that happened to be Black officers. So we got to be very, very careful of the consent decree, and it's the leadership that makes the consent decree viable for us, because they'll tell their own story, and that's definitely not our story. Okay, so and I also wanted to comment on training, and training is good, and we need training, and we have been training forever. Just imagine in your career when we started diversity training, but what has changed? And I'll tell you the reason why you need training, and you need it in a proper context, and that is to address the culture. Culture eats training for lunch every time. And so when you train somebody at your academy, Darren, and when you train them and you talk about training, when they go out to the districts and they run into a sergeant and lieutenant and says, you know what, all that academy stuff is great, but this is how we do it. And that's what eliminates our training efforts, you see, because that is the culture. And you got to connect culture to the leadership. And what's happening is we are all going under a structure of policing that is based on white policing. We have to figure out solutions for the Black community and how policing is going to be better for Black people. We need a model, not their model. And when you're talking about Black officers who get promoted and they forget they're Black, they don't forget they're Black. They acquiesce to the white policing model because they want to get promoted again. Yes. Accolades again. So our leadership is something that we must address. And
talk about it, brother. Keep talking. You hitting it right now.
Okay. So, but what I'm saying is, when we see these police leaders in our community, you know, we don't want certain leadership, and we've got to make sure that we tell them we don't want certain leadership. And you know what they do is, and I'm not going to go on too much longer, but what they do is they study us. They study us very well. They study you as a patrol officer, they'll study you as a sergeant, and they say, that's the one that we will promote, because when we promote him, he won't do anything for Black community or Black policing or Black officers. He will acquiesce to what we have showed him to do. So I think that, you know, that leadership part is very important. And the last thing is, within that leadership, okay, within that leadership, it should be leadership that establish the goals, the values, and the mission, not your individual police officer, and I hate to go against you, brother Darren, but I respect you, but you can't, it has to be, came down from the leadership. These are the behaviors that we'll accept, and when you go outside of these behaviors, you're going to get disciplined.
Exactly.
Okay? So, you know, those are some of the comments that I'd like to make, Damon.
Okay. Brother Joseph got his hand up. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on what Damon said, specifically with regards to the recordings in the Mount Vernon Police Department. What we heard over and over again when colleagues were discussing amongst themselves misconduct was, so-and-so's a good guy, but he got brainwashed when he went to the narcotics unit. These are even black officers, but they felt a need to fit in with the culture that was set by the leadership of that unit. And when civilian complaints came over and over again, what did the department do? They allowed the supervisor of the unit to lead the initial investigation into the misconduct, make a recommendation to the higher-ups who then sign off on it. So civilians see nothing comes when I report something, and the officers see nothing's going to happen, so I need to fit in with this culture. And it's a very understandable, gradual process. And over the years and years of recordings that we heard, you can kind of hear how fellow officers are seeing people in their department change, maybe in ways they're not even realizing themselves. So I think that thing about leadership and culture outside of the training sort of zone is really important.
Latonya.
If I could step in here for a minute, I'm not in corrections or policing. So my thought process comes from a different perspective. And the first thing that I thought about, or the consistent thing I thought about, is babysitting. And a babysitter is effective because of accountability. The parent listens to the kid who has the firsthand personal experience and impressions of the babysitter. But the parent picked the babysitter. If you apply this analogy to policing, it's the supervisors who pick, like several people have said, the positions of the officers. And if the community is the child and the leadership is not listening to the wants, needs, and abuse of the community, then like a babysitter who's abusive to a kid, the abuse is going to continue. The parent has to, the supervision, the community, the mayor, whoever's in charge of these environments has to listen to the people who are being controlled. And if they're being abused by the control, because control is so very comfortable for the establishment, then the people will continue to be controlled. And George Floyd will continue to be a victim of a system that stopped caring about what the kid is saying. The community matters. And the system has to pay attention to what the community is saying is happening in the streets, because the supervision is not out there. Now they may be. The white shirts are all over the place in cities now, that there's protests and things happening, but the white shirts are not usually out there. We have to listen to our community.
Darren wanted to speak, and then we'll go to Dr. Davis.
Yeah, and I agree. You know, she hit the nail right on the head with that analogy of the babysitter. Because you know what happens is when you have a babysitter, and you also have when you have suspicions of your babysitter not doing the right thing, what they have is a nanny cam. Okay, so now they came up with these nanny cam, which are now with a body cam as a police officer, and you still got some agencies. You still got some agencies across the country that refuse to wear body cams. You know, they refuse to have. You know, we're doing a good job. We don't really need those. Okay, I just want to touch on one point that the brother Damon had spoke on, and I don't think you disagreed or we disagree on this, but I do believe that actually what he said is a direct point. We need to change the culture of the department. I 100% agree with. I mean, and Brother Jerome said that we got to change the culture. Okay, and I agree with you when it comes to enforcement and leadership. And the problem is that there is no accountability from the leadership, because the leadership is afraid to do it, because that's where the good old boys club comes in. Because if I now have my uncle on the job, I got my uncle's son on the job, I got my nephew on the job, I got my niece on the job, what happens is when they do something this grossly of it because I don't want to take away what? Their pension. I don't want, and that's what this is about. It's about protecting the pensions. You protect the law enforcement. I mean, you protect the paycheck, and then you protect the pension. So if you now have those leaders at the top held accountable for the training that has been instituted, and those administrators and leaders were in position to say, hey, I ain't tolerating this. You make a mistake that you decide that is grossly negligent, there's negligence, there's gross negligence. When you make that decision, know that that decision is on you because you chose to do that. The department can't stand behind somebody that makes a decision that is grossly negligent, okay? Or you choose to go way far to left field. We can't support that. So I completely agree exactly what he said, that that's where it starts, and we definitely got to have a culture change in the department. And that means that we're going to start losing a whole lot of people who are unwilling to change because they don't like the culture change.
Let's before you respond, let's get to Brother Allen because he didn't get it.
Okay, I'm unmuted. All right, thank you very much, guys. I didn't mention that I was the vice president of the Black Teachers Association in New York during my tenure. I want to talk a little more about culture because I think people don't really, citizens don't really understand the culture. We do who are in law enforcement, but the problem is we need to establish some expectation clarity, okay? We need to communicate to law enforcement, the upper stratus of law enforcement, exactly what the community wants and what the community expects. What we think are good results. Because oftentimes in law enforcement, what they think is good results is a lot of arrests and a lot of summonses, right? That's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about building up Black communities. So historically, law enforcement has operated under the misguided perception that it was the doctor, right, professionally empowered to inform the patient, you, the community, and they felt that the doctor knows best, right? We need to change that. Law enforcement is doing itself a great disservice by not being guided by community needs and community perspectives on what's good for them. Okay, and we need to get rid of this doctor-patient relationship and really begin to operate under the understanding that the community has equal, if not more, say-so as to how they're being policed in their community. And that's going to take people that are on this panel with the expertise that you have to go to the community and help them along that road because they don't really understand. It's a complex situation. Those of us who have 10, 20, 30 years in policing and law enforcement, corrections, whatever, they know. But the community is going to need our expertise to guide them along that path to a solution. Thank you.
And I want to, Brother Allen, you said something, right? The expertise that we have here and the other Black law enforcement personnel that are very outspoken. Man, we done sat with the preachers and the politicians and all that. We done sat with them. Like, what else? What else you want? I mean, what else can? And I'm going to ask everybody, what the hell else can we do? We sat with the pastors, we sat with the politicians, we tell them what's going on, we show them the loopholes in the collective bargaining agreement, we show them the loopholes in the policy. We tell on the bad ones, right? And they do absolutely nothing. Nothing. Latonya?
I have an answer, and I heard it last night in another forum. We need to start speaking to Pookie and Keisha. Pookie and Keisha need to be at the table because Pookie and Keisha know the streets a lot better than the pastors and the politicians. We need to get Keisha and Pookie to the table. That's the answer.
Jerome, then Damon, and then Sister Leon.
I agree with my sister. Also, we need to educate Pookie and Keisha that there are actually two types of community policing, and it's never been consistent. First, you have traditional policing, then you have evidence-based policing. Those are two different things. Traditional policing is like Giuliani and Bernard Kerik. They want to run it with an iron fist, authoritarian type thing. And then you have evidence-based, where they actually study numbers. But all of that is controlled by who you elect. So what that means? We have to be better and at the table during the vetting process of our elected officials. Don't always vote because somebody is black, because not everybody's black is for you. We got to do a better vetting process, and that's those tough questions about community policing, because the mayor actually dictates the direction the police chief and the department is going. So based on how you vote is the direction that policing is going to go. And Damien said it one time at a forum that we need to talk about policy, we need to talk about legislation, we need to talk about training, and there was another one, I can't get it right now, but he got it right. But we need to be at the table asking the tough questions and demand an answer. Don't let them do the Cory Booker and the Al Jolson and tap around the table. Answer the question.
Brother Damon.
Yeah, no, Jerome, absolutely. And I think you touched upon some very interesting things. But, you know, I'd like to break it down a little bit more. You know, when you're talking about that traditional policing, that's one thing that, you know, is out the door. But we also have problem-oriented policing, and we also have community policing within that, and we also have intelligence-led policing. Now, problem-oriented policing is because every community has different problems. So how are we going to address that, particularly Black communities? And then when I talk about, you know, which really falls under your evidence-based policing, is intelligence-led policing. And that's when you find out, you gather the data, as you were speaking of, gather the data of these repeat offenders, gather the data of these bad actors, and you focus on them, not just some guy standing on the corner because they ain't got nothing and they want to sit around and talk about rapping. You know what I mean? They ain't doing nothing, they ain't got nothing, but you see them as something else. That's because we're not focusing on these repeat crime offenders and bad guys who really, you know, and I hate to go there, bad guys who really are the ones that white officers don't want to deal with. They call us. They call us. You know, so, you know, and so I just wanted to mention that. And I also want to mention, okay, Pookie and whoever you said else, they need to be in on it. But one of our big problems is Damon, that you were speaking of, is us as Black people. And what I'm talking about is a lot of Black people don't think that Black men and Black women can be experts. So when you talk to the preacher, so when you're talking to the merchant, they look at you sort of a side eye. Listen, we've been at this thing for 30 plus years. We have the answers you're looking for, but you want to look right past us. But don't let a white man come walking up in there talking about, I know something, with his white hat and the scrambled eggs and everything else. You know, I mean, you know, but if you want to speak truth to the power, that's how you got to really talk about us. Go ahead.
That's right. Sister Leon, go ahead, sister.
Yeah. Look, I love y'all, okay? But you know, I'm a recruiter. And when I'll start with this story. When I was in personnel, when I was assigned as officer in charge of personnel, and we would have folks come into the office and shout out to the officers out there, hey, when y'all giving y'all next police test? And they would tell them or whatever, and they say, yeah, because I got a nephew who ain't doing nothing but sleeping on my sister's couch in the basement. So I start coming out of my office and said, what the hell make you think we want him? Sound like a failure to launch to me. So here's the thing. You can't get the right behavior from the wrong people. We keep saying training. If somebody come here who ain't trying to hear that stuff, it don't matter. The FBI has files that the extremist right infiltrated law enforcement in the military. The organizational psychologists in the field have told us sociopaths only make up 8% of the general population. They make up 40% of police. You can't get the right behavior from the wrong people, right? So I don't care how much you can't train that stuff out of people. Our main focus needs to be the front door. We have to have robust psychological screenings. We have to do true behavioral-based interviewing. We need to find a way to integrate our community into the selection process. Oh, you want to give the message that our authority comes at the consent of the public? Because we got it twisted. We're so busy, we think now that we tell the public what it is. That's wrong. We only have our authority at their consent. That's why people looking at decommissioning our asses.
That's right.
when Camden, New Jersey did it, now Minneapolis is talking about it, right? So when you talk about all this training, you can't, look, you got the right people. The rest is cake. You get the right people, that training sticks. The 13th documentary should be put in every single police academy. Understand the gravity of every single interaction you have with the community. Understand when you over-police, oversight. Folks, you are changing the trajectory of generations. Like, it is that deep. And we need to instill that and embody that and know that when we're coming on. So if you're coming here for the wrong reason, hopefully, first of all, we can identify those people and make sure that we do not hire them. Real quick, and because it's a whole lot of us, education didn't used to be valued. It didn't used to be valued in policing. And when I called off those minimum standards before, the message that sends is, unless we can find something wrong with you that's on paper, if you're willing to put on a badge and a gun and go into these communities, cool. So lifelong learning, critical thinking, those type of things were not implemented in the front door screening processes. Right? And the other part of it that our community needs to know, policing ain't hard. Stop crying. We ain't in the top 15 most dangerous professions in the United States. Stop to tell the truth about policing. It's fun. I worked in the busiest district in the city of Cleveland. I can count on one hand the days I didn't want to go to work. You love the community loves you back. Do you wear bulletproof vests? Hell yeah, somebody asked me the other day, well, Sarge, why don't y'all have rubber bullets? I said, baby, because other people ain't got rubber bullets. And if somebody in a gunfight, you want me to have some real bullets, okay? So, that part. But it's not the most, we had an academy class not too long ago that had 4 women who are daughters of current police officers. I said, peep game, y'all. What dads do you know recruiting their daughters on a job that's kicking their behind every day? Nobody. It's a good gig. Most of us go through our whole career never firing our weapons in the line of duty. Right? So when we have folks walking around, and then I'm gonna get off of this, when we have folks walking around talking about, oh, feel sorry for us, I gotta go back to that, y'all, because I can't stand the punks. I hate when I get punked out, and I've been a punk before, so I own mine, but I can't stand punks with badges and guns. If you feel like this beat you down so much and I gotta drink all the time, no, we drink because our history is in a bunch of, out of Tammany Hall in New York, where the Irish started, and they always were drinkers. That's the culture. When you talk, I love that statement when you said culture eats training for lunch every day of the week. Absolutely. So you have to get the right people. An agency cannot outperform the quality of its people. It is impossible. And when you talk about people getting to a certain level and forgetting who they are, no, like you said, it's acquiescing. That's why I love being on I'm from Chicago, Illinois originally. Don't nobody have no pictures of goats and stuff with me. I think that sometimes when people been around here too long, what they afraid of is other folks know where the bodies are buried, right? And so, and finally, this is so important. Police officers are expected at any moment to be incident commanders in a scene until a ranking or someone with more seniority shows up. If they don't have emotional intelligence, if they are not mature, then they should not have a badge and a gun. We have training now that says the brain is not fully developed until 25. I understand that we can't, that's a hard political argument to make when we send our babies off to the service at 18. But the service, the military, and urban or local policing are two different things. If the science says a brain is not fully developed and life hasn't shown you that it can eat your behind for lunch, we are very judgmental when we're young. So when you send somebody 21 to 25 to somebody's house, I've been in a house with an officer that sat there and talked to them people. I'm telling you, stop playing with us. Stop playing with the people in the community with this nonsense. We know what it's going to take. So our thing is, let's just get to work. We know what it's going to take. Remind the community of what their power is, that they tell us, like brother said, you know, we have the expertise, we have the training, but you all know what your police departments you want to move. And if it gets to the point where you feel like your police department is not serving you, decommission it.
George Joseph got to go. I just want to give him a chance. Any last words before you leave? And I want to thank you for that article that you did.
Well, first of all, I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for everyone who contributed, and I look forward to following you guys on social media. We're continuing here at Gothamist.com and WNYC New York Public Radio to investigate the alleged police corruption in Mount Vernon and Westchester. So if you like our work and like the deep investigations we've been doing, feel free to reach out to me. All my contact information is at the bottom of the articles, including my phone number, my Instagram, my Twitter, my Facebook. I'm open to anything. You can reach out anonymously. I don't care. I'm just trying to find information to help the public know what's going on. So I really appreciate the opportunity. Great to be with you all today. Thank you.
Hey, George, I think you got one more coming, a couple more coming out. When the next one come out, we got to bring you back. We got to bring you back, and I'm going to try to reach out to whatchamacallit's lawyer,
Murray.
Yeah, to Murray, and see if he could come on too and have you both on.
There'll be a lot more to discuss, I promise.
Yeah, I already know.
I would just like to say, George, get your nice suit ready because I see a Pulitzer coming.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Darren.
Thanks, George.
And then Aaron.
All right, listen, I'm going to supersede. I got a few comments I want to make on a couple comments that were made. But I always like to say this. I would love to sit at the table with every last one of you individuals and really sit down and create a booklet. Damon, we got to take this video and run it back because there's so many things. You know, as individuals, we think we have all the answers and knowledge. But I was just listening to the sister, from Cleveland and family and from Chicago. I got family in Chicago too, by the way. Did she hear some things, that was super important? When she talked about the 13th, when she talked about, the psychology training. Let me just tell you this. I got a coworker of mine that's been harping about this for years, and who actually texted me just 2 days ago that said, I want to get my platform out. So I'm going to throw it out there for him, Brother Richardson, Officer Richardson. And really, one of the things he brought up to me 2 years ago was how many times do we go back and look at the psychological profile of an officer after he or she has been on the job 2 to 3 years or more? We don't. So what happens is, you're right, I get on the job and I'm fine. But then life happens. I go through a divorce. I became alcoholic. I went to the farm, 2 or 3 times, and I still got my job because it's protected under the oath, okay? But I ain't mentally good. I'm not mentally right. And we know this officer's on the job that ain't right. And you know what we say? Yo, don't mess with that cat. Because, we know, everybody knows that cat ain't straight. But we let him work. We let him continue to work, knowing that he or she ain't right. We don't do nothing about it, because we afraid to take the pension away from this person. And we let them rock for 10, 15, 20 years. And you know what we say? Yo, one of these days, so-and-so going to come in here and kill everybody. Okay? And I hate to say that. That's what we say. But, don't mess with it because they're going to come in and kill. But we let them work. We continue to let them work. So I agree that, we got to have more psychological training. And I agree that it needs to be up front. Somebody brought up the 13th in Netflix. One of the things, Damon, you had asked was, what do we do? And one of the things I think we need to do is, I think we need to sit down and start creating our own manuals and our own training within our own communities. those of us like myself that are training, that trained for 14 years, that got all the know-how, the skill, the knowledge, and other people who have trained internationally, international police law, we need to start. If we can't get this message through to our elected officials, and we can't get these individuals who sit at the top to change the culture and the policy that we want changed based on all the conversations we had, then let's sit down and write our own manual. Let's sit down and write our own policies and procedures on what we know is to be right. And guess what? Let's call our own black police officers that belong to these fraternal organizations and say, listen, we're going to start training y'all the right way. We're going to start changing the culture from within you guys. And then when you go back to work, you got to be man enough, strong enough, professional enough, okay, to say, yo, I ain't down with that. I'm not down with that culture because I know what's right and what's wrong because I've been trained by the best in the world, which is us. So, and like this brother said, we come to the table with 30, 40 years of law enforcement experience, it's not accepted. But the white guy comes to the table and bam, now it's accepted. And I ain't saying nothing bad against, you know, the white folks that may be listening. I'm just keeping it real and telling the truth. You know, our validation needs to be accepted in a way that our people, that Pookie and Keisha, okay, completely understand exactly what it is that we're teaching them. And then the other thing is the question I'll raise, and I'll raise this. If we start teaching the black community on the proper ways of what escalation and de-escalation looks like, so that when they see somebody being arrested and they see some improper techniques or improper things, knees on the neck, and they know that it's not right, okay? And now let's say we train them in a community training environment. Would we be giving up police secrets? Is there a secret to policing? That's the question that I'm asking you guys. Somebody answer. Is there a secret to policing? Is there things that we shouldn't give to the community because we don't want them to know so that we will always have the upper hand? Or are we good enough now to say that we can teach our communities this is what an arrest looks like? This is what a takedown looks like. This is what controlling a person looks like. This is what escalation looks like, and this is what de-escalation looks like. Would we be giving away the house or giving away the secret, or are we doing the responsible thing by letting our people know that this is what it should be?
All right, go to Jerome.
You can do all the training in the world, but if you don't change the behavior, then training is irrelevant. For example, during my time in Black Law Enforcement Alliance, I used to teach what to do when stopped by the police. And I used to tell my audience, stand at a safe distance and video. And then now where we at today, not even video counts. In fact, during these recent incidents with George Floyd and others, you notice that one thing that is missing, the use of body cameras. The other thing is this, whether you are law enforcement, whether you're in the military, there's something called standard of care. No one needs to train you to tell to pull the next person off of somebody else's neck. Everybody, there was a 75-year-old man, I believe it showed,
in Buffalo.
The officer pushed him on the ground and then they marched over him. He's bleeding out of his ear and no one provided standard care to that individual. Now, everybody knows in law enforcement that if you shoot somebody or you injure somebody, that being use of force, that you must also provide them immediate medical attention. Well, no one did it. And then last, in Tacoma, Washington, they showed that there was that a group of cops choked out another Black person and they had now ruled it a homicide. So this has become a routine thing. First, we need to get the right people in office, and then, like my brother Green said, we all need to be at the table and say the right things that need to be in part of that change. I think that Woodall and Damon Jones, I think you need to call a town hall meeting on Zoom or wherever, and because there's a lot of people that's frustrated and they got a lot to say. I think you need to do the first ever town hall meeting where real people get to ask the real questions.
Alan. Let me go to Alan. Let me get Alan.
Off mute. Okay. We keep talking about training and some of the disadvantages of training, and you're right. You can't train hate or disgust or non-respect out of someone. But there are other ways to kind of foster change in the law enforcement community. Well, for instance, the great majority, I believe, of law enforcement officers would love to be greeted with the utmost respect and dignity when they're working. Officers would love it if when you went to work, people said, "Good morning, officer. How are you today?" That's not the case. And to a great degree, that's the fault of law enforcement. So one of the things that we don't really law enforcement teams to step away from is the well-being, officer well-being and community well-being are dependent on each other, right? If the community is doing bad, officers are going to suffer the consequences, right? So we need to educate officers that we not only want you to treat communities of color and everyone with respect and dignity because it's the right thing to do. We want you to do that because it'll make your job easier. You may not become an alcoholic. You may not be stressed out. You may not want to commit suicide, which is a big thing in law enforcement. So we tie community well-being with officer well-being and get officers to understand that without one, you're not going to have the other. So it's in your best interest to follow the guidelines that these experts are talking about because all the statistics demonstrate that police officers, personal lives and professional, we're in trouble, right? And majority of that is white officers, right? So we can't, that's a whole nother issue that you brought about people not really being capable of handling police work. And I agree with that. But there is a tie-in to working with the community for your own best interest, right? And if we can spread that message, officers might be more apt to consider helping themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I can step in there for a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
Just what Brother Allen just talked about reminded me, many years ago, I worked as a social worker in a facility for youth. And I was a social worker and the kids loved me. But when it was unrest or something upsetting, I was the only staff member in that house that they made sure was protected. Right. If they threatened other staff members, and the reason that is just what Brother Allen said. Because when I walked in, I didn't wait for them to greet me. I greeted them. I showed them respect. If law enforcement shows the community respect, then yes, when I see you, I won't see a threat. I'll see a comrade. I'll see someone that respects me. I respect them. I remember when I was a kid and you'd walk in the house and you wouldn't speak. And my grandmother used to say, and don't ask me to explain it, she would say, "I didn't sleep with you last night." Mm-hmm. No, you walk in the room, you speak. You walk in my house for law enforcement, you walk in my community, you speak.
That's right. That's right. I think.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask everybody a question real quick? So, and I don't want to get off of this, the mental health, because I've been dealing with that. As police officers, don't y'all have to keep, after a certain amount of time, y'all gotta recertify to shoot your gun, right? Don't you gotta recertify? Like with mental health, y'all see some of the worst things as officers. You know, you're going to people, you know, you're dealing with murders and fires and all kinds of situations, and it's gotta be traumatic. Forget about your personal life, just the stuff you see on a day-to-day, working in the inner city, that has to mess up the mind. So why does no law enforcement deal with the mental health of the officers? You understand what I'm saying? Because I've never, you know, that I think that is a big part of it. And from the outside looking in, I've been asking this question for a while, and I never get no answers. Just that it don't get done. It get done before you go in, and that's it. So you got officers that's been on the front line for years and years and years, and they've been seeing all kinds of crazy stuff, and they all jacked up in the head, and they out there in the street.
Yeah, if you had mental evaluations of officers, actually officers that do work, you wouldn't have no officers. You wouldn't have not one officer, because look, if you work in an environment, just think about, you know, like even people would tell me, "Bro, man, you real aggressive." Because hell, I work with inmates all day. You got to be aggressive. My wife say, "You loud." I got to talk over 60 inmates all the time. Why are you talking so loud? Because I have to talk loud. Because I have to talk over so So these norms that's in the law enforcement culture, it definitely affects us. And I really say, if the same psych evaluation that you took when you got the job, I really believe 75% will fail it if they took it 15 years later. They wouldn't want us in there because we would be too aggressive.
Well,
No,
Damon,
so they'll lose their firearms.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying, brother, it's on you, but I was just saying they would lose their firearms.
Exactly.
If anybody knows, if you go tell somebody, hey, I'm going through something, you're going to lose your firearm, and if not that, your job.
That's right. Go ahead, Damon.
Yeah, sure. I know you had a question asked, but I just want to touch upon, we do have early warning systems, but in the past, these early warning systems for officer wellness have been used to penalize guys like me and to penalize other people of color and other people that aren't liked, so to speak. But we do have systems. We have we had a big union in Pittsburgh. We were the FOP Lodge #1, and we had a system where you were be able to go and talk to somebody. And I think this is very, very important. Not necessarily, the Minnesota multiphasic, psychological exam where it is really subjective what the answers are, but you go and talk to a professional. You should be sent to talk to a professional. And again, that comes through management, that comes from supervisory, and that comes from recognizing officer wellness and some issues that you have. That's part of supervising. You just can't be a supervisor or a sergeant on the street and talk about charge. So that's not the way it works. And the last point that I did want to make, in body cams, and I see my man Jerome, you talked about body cams, and body cams are great, and we need body cams, but let us remember it's a tool for the profession. Some of the culture, now you go down here in this area in Baltimore, this guy was placing evidence on a man while he was on the body cam. And in addition to that, there's many, many studies that say that body cam will not change your behavior because it's so in the culture, because it's so ingrained. But we need body cams. I'm just saying it's not the answer to everything.
All 4 of the officers in Minnesota have body cams.
Exactly.
All 4 of them had their body cams on. They got the footage from all 4 body cams.
And unlike the nanny cam, they don't know it's there.
Exactly.
And they don't have no control over it.
Exactly.
Sister Stormy, you had your hand up. You want to say something?
Yes. Good stuff, y'all. Good stuff. See, I still keep my notebook. I got stuff.
I see.
So, with this quarantine and everything, with my team, we can work from home. We have, we've been going out in the community minimally. So we've been going to attending a lot of webinars, right, and online trainings. One of them was called Humanizing Policing, which I always think is the funniest crap in the world. Just like this new commission on law enforcement, one of the charges being respect for law enforcement. We don't want to be respectable. We just want to be respected. We don't want to act human, but we want the community to see us as human. Act like you human and the community see you as human. Stop playing with us. So, one of the guys that we have, one that says, is our training failing recruits? Because we keep talking about de-escalation, but what we need to be training is non-escalation, because it's often the officers that are escalating these situations. Look at the money your agency pays out in misconduct. When they talk about, somebody said, Darren, we don't have money to train. Look at how much money they pay out in misconduct. They got money to train. There it is. Again, stop. First of all, teach non-escalation, because oftentimes we're the ones escalating. I've been on them calls. I remember one lady, we went in, the person she called about was gone. And that officer's still talking about, I'm trying to talk to you. This is my house now. I'm looking, I said, get your ass, we out of here. You're not about to get me in no fight for no good doggone reason, right? So what do we do? Because y'all have been saying, we ready to move. It's about action. Everybody has been saying this, Darren, and everybody else. So you have all these associations, which y'all, I know everybody want to be the doggone authority. Everybody want to be Madam President, Mr. President, First Lady, first, you know what I'm saying? I get it, right? Everybody wants to be the authority. I believe the way we do this is we need to just lower all them boundaries of associations. Stop it. Why we got 50 million different associations? All these people are writing letters about what the hell, this is the plan. Who you talk to? Stop, don't do that. We already get that from ICAP, we get it from PERF, we get it from FOP. Stop playing. You know, the thing is, we can come together as a group conscious. So, you know, get all of our associations together. No titles, no names. We all people in law enforcement in a criminal justice system, right? And figure out what is universal. You talk about Kalea, and I'm willing to listen. You know what I'm saying? When you said there's something there to help us, I'm willing to listen. But I'm gonna tell you, you know, this is when I just gotta shut my mouth, because these agencies been around a long time. We can be right about a lot of stuff. My mentor, retired Assistant Safety Director Barry Withers, had to sit me down and tell me one day, do you want to be right or do you want to be effective? Because you can be right all day long. We know what the hell, we know what the issues are, but do you want to be effective? So all these associations been here, we've been here since such and such, okay. And here we are, yet here we are, right? So collectively, we have the answers. With everybody wanting to be the chief and nobody wanting to be an Indian and do the work, we got a problem. I loved, you guys had a gentleman on, AJ and Damon, who really, really said it. You know, he was like, it don't take no 50 million people. You know, you get a few people together. We got all these, Sonia Pruitt said, we're at a critical mass. We got everything we need in our own community, everything. Doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, master electricians, law enforcement, chiefs, commanders. We got everything we need to figure this out. There is something that is collective for everybody that would be a nationwide standard, and then you do bespoke plans for specific communities because they have their own different issues. So they work on their issues locally, like y'all have done in Westchester. You talking about the criminality, police criminal, you can speak to it better than I can. I loved it. I looked at the documents you all did. I looked at what Noble came up as to the Senate and all these other places. But again, collectively, we can figure this out. It's not rocket science, you know, and I think that's all I wanted to say about that, you know. Oh, we have an ordinance on the books here in Cleveland. How about that? It talks about officers being, all the safety forces, because the firemen's some crazy too, all right? So, and when we talk about how much we see and how much we messed up, we are, but we have done our EMS services so bad, they see so much more than us. They have more PTSD than police ever will, and they work harder than we ever have. And a lot of them are our people, okay? So we have an ordinance on the book in Cleveland about safety force personnel being reviewed every 2 years. It's every year, every 2 years, but they just, in practice, they don't do it. So I inform the public. I'm a snitch. I'll let you know, don't do nothing around me. I'm gonna tell it. I'm a snitch, and I'm gonna inform my community because I need them to know what their powers are and where they can start pushing the envelope on making us adhere to our own policies, right? So we just like the brother said, we can figure this out. We just have to remove these, you know, everybody want to be Big Brother Almighty. Stop it. We all in this same doggone boat. Let's figure this out. Stop playing with us.
Yeah, so Brother Darren said we need to write a manual. Sister Latonya said, stop playing with us need to be the name of that manual. One of our listeners, Eddie Johnson, said the two sisters are powerful, speak truth. I just wanted to share that. Shout out to all the people listening. There's a lot of people, a lot of comments. A lot of people are agreeing with y'all.
I just want to say something. We are talking about systematic change. But there's an organization called the PBA, the police unions, or any law enforcement unions that really don't want systematic change. I want to talk about, see, a lot of people don't know how powerful police unions are in local municipalities and national. When you're talking about the FOP, a lot of places they are the union, and like in New York, they're fraternal organizations. So it depends on what state you are. They're a fraternal organization, and then some states they are the collective bargaining unit for the police officers. And people don't know how powerful these police unions are to literally, and they lobby big time down in Washington D.C. No different than Philip Morris or any other big corporation when it comes into maintaining what they call law and order, but aggressive policing in Black communities. Latonya, we personally dealt with police unions, in issues, and I'm going to say, even with a Black union president, it's still a white police union, right? So let's not get fooled with that neither.
Absolutely.
So let's talk. You can start it off of the power in dealing, and even let's not forget, these officers, even though they're charged, they're going to have the finest defense ever than the average person. These not going to be no okie doke lawyers.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? That's going to go. So Latonya, I want you to start, and then we'll go through everybody to talk about it.
Listen, I have dealt with municipal unions, police unions, and I separate the two specifically for a reason. I have dealt with medical unions, nurses unions, and I will tell you that police unions are by far the most powerful. I have never seen any other union that advocates and fights for their selected, and I did say selected, choice of people that they represent. I haven't seen another union. I represented people who were fired from municipalities, not as their attorney, as their personal attorney, because when you have a union in place, if an outside attorney comes in, the union disassociates and says that they don't want to have anything to do with it. If you have a lawyer, it's either the union or the lawyer. But when I went in as a private attorney, and they can't separate me from their personal attorney because everyone has the right to counsel. But in doing that, I had to force the union. I literally settled a multi-million-dollar case in one of our local municipalities because I settled it for the union. I did the legwork. I gave them the documentation, the evidence that they needed to prove that it was a wrongful termination by this mayor and the board. And they were able to get their jobs back. And my whole thing is, but what were you doing as a union before I came in? They weren't doing anything. If you consider the fact that the unions negotiate with the employer, just think about that for a minute. Who does the union want to play nice to? The employer. Because who looks good when they come out with what is it called? When they come out with a contract that looks like it benefits the members of the union, but it really benefits the municipality, right? Who gets the credit for that? The union does. So it's not always in their best interest to fight for the rights of their members. And we need to remember that and realize that when we say union, union, union. Sometimes union is not your best friend. And I've seen that firsthand.
They're definitely not Black officers' best friend.
Absolutely.
They're definitely not Black officers.
Absolutely.
Jerome, I see you get ready to say.
Let me, let me just talk about NYPD union, Pat Lynch, and his name is Lynch. You can add the ing if you want to. But let me say this. The union is only as strong as its members. However, if the members, most of the members today in these unions, all they said, at least I can say people of color, all they care about is the outcome of a contract, how much money we getting. They don't care about the things that affect, they don't care about the effects of what's going on in their own community. They only care about, hey, we're together, boys in blue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. NYPD is notorious. And I can tell you that for most of the times when we was fighting against the things that was going on in the community, from Sean Bell all the way up to today, most of the people that was attacking me and the organization was people that looked just like me. See, the union was smart enough, the white union was smart enough to send out their members to come after guys like the guys that look just like me. And so that's something to think. And then, like Damien said, yes, it can be an all-black union, but they're still controlled by whites. And I've seen, I give you a good example. I was part of an organization, 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care. And I remember going to work one day. I was a captain. I remember going to work one day, and in the hallways, it's so empty. But you can, because it's empty, you can hear what somebody's saying down at the end of the hall. And there was 3 white officers and 1 black guy. The black officer said, "Oh no, here come 99 plus 100 blacks." This is what he said. So I walked up to him. The white officers who know me, they knew to leave. I walked up to the black officer and said, "Do I play with you?" He said, "I was just playing." I said, "Do I play with you? You better hope that you don't need me." The next week, he got terminated for excessive use of force. And he's been trying to call me to save his job. And so what I'm trying to say is, I've seen these rant websites that NYPD has, their members attacking the people like Damon and myself, those who are out there for fighting for justice. They've been attacking us. And none of the people of color dare to open their mouth or say anything. So I don't know who's the enemy. Is it NYPD Pat Lynch, or is it those that look just like me? That's something to think about.
Yeah, you know, Latonya, I gotta say it, because when my wife was unjustly suspended for 9 months because the mayor and police commissioner didn't like me, I hired Latonya, and she talked to the union president, and he admitted that it was retaliation, but yet they didn't do anything. Just talk about that. You're my lawyer. I'll send you the release form.
When that's the challenge with the union, because in that situation, the union was helpless, or pretended to at least be helpless. Like they didn't understand the level of power that they had to intervene with respect to someone that had nothing to do with what they were pissed off about. The wife had nothing to do with what they were angry about. They wanted Damon to be quiet. Mm-hmm. They wanted Damon to stop speaking truth to power. And because they couldn't do anything to him, they literally attempted to torment his wife because they could. They had access to her, so they could get to her. And the union in that situation served no purpose. Served no purpose. If you know, it's what we've been discussing all morning. When you know something is wrong, if you don't step forward and point out wrong to wrong, then wrong will continue. Thank God they didn't have the power that they needed, and she went back to work and it was all good. But the fact that she had to endure the abuse that she experienced on a daily basis, the fear and terror that she experienced, because this is her place of work. She didn't get the titles that she earned by someone giving it to her. She earned it. And for someone to come in and say, because your husband is not kowtowing to what we want, we're going to destroy your career. Nah, not today. Not today and not tomorrow either. Exactly. But the union didn't step in and fix that.
Oh, and Black Union president. Go figure.
Listen, just because it looks like us doesn't mean that it is.
Exactly. Go ahead, Damon.
You gotta unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay, well, you know, we're talking about unions and these things. I mean, we have to, they're very strong, you know, and we understand how strong they are, but we still have to establish a culture of right doing. And the problem that we have with the unions most of the time is that you can do anything. And the unions say, well, he didn't do this or he didn't do that. They defend bad behavior. And
Exactly.
that's why it continues to exist, because people know they will rely on the FOP, which is nationwide, or some other type of union for their defense. So until police officers, black, white, otherwise, multicultural, understand to call out bad behavior, to call out wrongdoing as wrongdoing, then you know, we will continue to have the same thing. And if you go on social media, you'll hear people, well, you know, and not only people on social media, you heard the Attorney General of the county, which used to be Klobuchar's job, but we won't get into that. But you heard that man say, well, we want to see more video. We want to see this. We want to see that. What more do you need to see before you call out the bad behavior with a man murdering somebody in front of your eyes? You can't believe your lying eyes? You're looking for what?
Darren?
All right, so before we, you know, we leave and get off to this thing, I still want to see that what can we do so that this conversation doesn't end? And I was really 100% serious when I said we need to write a manual. I'd like to reconvene with each and every one of you. I'm telling you from my heart, I enjoyed every bit of this conversation. Every bit of this conversation was so enlightening and powerful, and every last one of you brought something tremendous to the table. But I don't want it to end right here. I want it to be effective. I want us to be able to start putting pen to paper and start galvanizing and putting some things together that we can start spreading, you know, among ourselves, but also to our fellow law enforcement officers, whether you're retired or not, so that we can have something that we know works, something that we as professionals, as minds, have put together. And it does, and we can always expand on it at a later date, but let's get something together now.
My only suggestion with that, Brother Darren, you indicated that it should be something for us. And my suggestion is that we find a way to market it to all police officers, all training facilities. They need, listen, other than what happened in Atlanta, and now it's on video, so those 6 officers were fired, 5 of them being African-American. We typically believe in our community that the police brutality is from white officers on us. It's a lot of it that goes both ways. Mm-hmm. So we need the training to be ours and theirs. White officers need the training from black experts as well.
I 100% agree.
I think, and I'm going to say this then, Brother Allen, Captain Dennis Muhammad from the first one said that also, that we need to have a big Zoom chat offline and come up with solutions, not just for the police department, but for the community itself, for the community to start policing itself. So it won't be relied on this police department until we get that straight. But we also need our community, just like the Jewish community do. You know, they don't just, the police don't just run in there and arrest nobody in the Jewish community. They got to get permission first. They got to get permission to come in the Jewish community to arrest somebody.
The communities that are policed by the nation, the Fruits of Islam, Nation of Islam as well. They're not going up in those communities without permission.
Exactly. But and you know what was the trick too? The first trick was when Peter King pushed that law and labeled the Nation of Islam a racist group so they wouldn't get government funding to secure the housing projects. That was the first start to keep black people, or an organization that was structured and that understood the security of community, to take them out of the community. Because at that time, the FOI had the majority throughout the country. The security contracts in securing housing projects throughout the nation. So those are tricks that, that was played politically. Brother Allen, you could go.
Yeah, how you doing? Yeah, I want to talk about something that we've been bantering around a bit, and that is the performance of Black officers, right? We can talk about.
We can't forget that, brother.
But I want to talk about that. When I was vice president of the Black Police Association in New York City, I would take great risks and do litigation, congressional hearings, the whole and Black officers mostly sat around nonchalant and watched. Okay, when I got pushback for the activities, none stepped forward. Right. Even when they had mass promotion, because I litigated in federal court and got discriminatory tests thrown out, they got promoted, but they didn't care. They got what they wanted. So the question becomes, how do we assess whether someone is really supportive of equitable policing, right? So you mentioned senators, politicians, police chiefs. My thoughts are your past performance. If you've never done anything in support of the Black agenda, if you never spoke out about injustices, if you never really take any risks to right wrongs, whatever whether you're police or corrections or any other or legislative, you never initiate any legislative to deal with these problems. Of course, now people are talking about it because it's a global epidemic, right? But if you've never done that, I can't help you. I don't care what color you are. If you've never done anything, then I don't have any belief that you're going to do anything. So now that the police chiefs, especially Black ones, are speaking about, oh yeah, we got to do this and we got to do that. For your whole career, we haven't heard from you. But now you want to speak up and say, oh no, I'm going to take a knee and I'm going to be with the people. You're with the people because you're on a losing battle and you know which side you should be on now. But my thing is, I assess people based on past performance. If you've never done anything to help the community, I have no interest in hearing your complaints now. Thanks.
I love. Oh, there you go, brother, sister. Go ahead.
Look, remember you had the attorney on there saying, if I don't see no fight in you, I ain't getting in a fight with you. All right. And when we start looking at adding some more questions, because it was like pulling teeth to get, when we were working to get a new psych process and behavioral-based interviewing and all that, we at least said, what other community work have you done? Somebody come and apply for the police department at doggone 35 years old, talking about, I just want to help the community. Ain't never done nothing in the community in their life. I'm like, kick rocks. You are what you about. We had a march here in the Huff neighborhood Solidarity March on yesterday. They know better than I went up there and I had the same conversation I had with people one-on-one. I had the same conversation I had with people. So I'm not coming across as disingenuous, because if you ever see me in the beauty shop, in the barber shop, nail salon, talking to these folks, I open gyms, I say the same thing. So that's why they were hashtagging it's on Instagram and all that when they made a mistake and gave me the mic. And that's where we start saying that hashtag is stop playing with us. So I'm with it. I love that it could be that, to stop playing with us, because this ain't rocket science and we can figure it out. So I love what you said, Dr. Allen, about, if you never done it before, the opposite is true, because we have officers, we have applicants and officers. I've had to go to hearings. People want number one on the list. That's a test. That's a test. That don't mean, all we're seeing is if you can be trained. That's what an entry-level exam mostly is. It's just like the ability to benefit from training. Can you be trained? And they're fighting that if they're in the top 10 or if they're number one, that means they're the best candidate. No, boo-boo, no. That is one level of a whole ladder, one rung of a whole ladder that you need to scale for us to determine whether or not you're going to be a good officer. So we've had people, they talk about this dude with the fire department, scored number one on the test, got on the job. They said they ain't getting nothing from him for the next 30 years. Mm. So we got to have that full conversation. Just because you score well, and same with, and we'll deal with promotionals once we get the front door taken care of. But those promotionals are a whole nother different animal. We get people that are promoted. There's no why our promotional list should come out and folks are sitting around in the district saying, you got to be kidding me. There was a slug yesterday. They're going to be a slug tomorrow. They were nothing. You know what I'm saying? When we cannot have confidence in our tools, not only in onboarding, but then in promotions, agency can outperform the quality of its people.
I used to have a sergeant that used to say, the promotional test is a lucky Saturday. Right? He said he just scored high. You know, I mean, it has to be more than just scoring high on a test. You know, and I used to tell Black officers, and I still tell them, you know, they need to join Black law enforcement organizations because they train you in things that your department will never train you in. All my training, when people see my resume, it didn't come from the police department. It came from the National Black Police Association, the National Association of Blacks in Criminal Justice. Taking those classes, those certified classes there, made me a better officer. Not just the usual ongoing training that they give, you know, in the department. And it helps them. See, I don't understand because they know they fast track officers to get promoted. They put them in certain places so they could learn certain things. So when they go to the interview after they gave them the answers on the test, right? So they could go to the interview and say, you know, I did this, I did that, you know, I did this, I did that, so they could get promoted. They don't do that with Black officers, at least not all of them. They pick and choose the ones that they try to do it to. But I try to tell officers is, if you're gonna go to these yearly training, now you have something under your belt instead of just working a block for 6 years. Well, what did you do for 6 years? Oh, I worked A block and B block. That's not gonna get you promoted. While the other officers have worked booking, perimeter, ERT, they do all this. They got it all in the belt because they put them there to do that. So you have to join these Black law enforcement organizations. So you could get different classes, man. We have to empower a lot of our Black officers with good training outside of the culture, you know, as Brother Damon said.
Damon?
Can I just say I have to exit? But I want to say that how this started was about George Floyd. And one of my very best friends is his first cousin, and they're traveling right now to go to North Carolina. So I just want to lift up his name and say that because of his tragedy, things will never, ever, ever be the same again. And we want them to stop playing with us.
Exactly.
I thank all of you. It was a privilege and a pleasure to have this with you. And Damon and AJ, when you put it together, I'll be there. Online, offline, in private, in tents, in the bungalow, in the bunker, wherever it is, let's get it done. God bless you all.
All right. Damon, I just want to talk about testing and things. So we can get testing right. Mm-hmm. You know, we can make sure that we have proper measures with proper statistical analysis, would make sense to Black people. All of these tests are usually made by white people for white people. And you know, the thing is, the SAT was made that way, but we can fix tests. Test is not the problem in attracting people. What is the problem is that people know that these our policing organizations are slanted. There's many, many studies that said if you even the playing field, you will get the best candidates. So when you know that the test is slighted, and whether it's entry level or whether it's the promotional, and you know that when you get to the psychological exam that they have subjective measures that can get rid of you, you won't be able to even recruit those people to come take the test. So what we're saying is you take advantage of that and you take care of that test. Next thing you know, you're getting 4-year college people out of Howard. You're getting 4-year college people because people do want to engage, but it's so bad right now that young kids are smart. They say, why am I going to engage in all of that mess? You know, in the area, you know, we got Coppin, we got Hopkins, you know, we got Morgan, we got all of these schools that kids are so bright. but we have to make sure that we address these tests and to make them more even and commensurate to Black community. So I did want to say that. And I just want to mention something else. We listen to each other speak here, and this is a great group. And it's really funny because we speak in our context. I'm talking about leadership. I'm talking about culture. Charmaine is talking about recruitment. And then my man, the trainer, where did he leave?
Darren.
Yeah. He's talking about training and everything. And we need to put that together. And we also need to take a look at ourselves because that is our bias, you see. But this is a great group. And hopefully we can get all the information out to each other. I do have a personal consulting where I teach cultural competence, where I teach leadership strategies, and where I also vet leaders. Because last thing, Damon, I'm sorry, because let me tell you, what we're going through now with PERF, and if you don't pay attention, you're in bad shape. PERF is placing all of our police chiefs, all of them. They placed the police chief in Seattle. What happened in Seattle? Seattle cordoned off the crowd just recently and then gassed him. Okay, what's happening in Philadelphia? They placed the police chief in Philadelphia. Just because they give you talking points and you have talking points doesn't mean you're a leader. The same thing, they placed Harrison in Baltimore. And, if you're paying attention to Baltimore, you're really seeing that, unfortunately, Commissioner Harrison, if you're listening, you happen to be in that, But, this is, I'm sorry, but we have to pay attention because just go to their website. They will give you a list of everybody that they place, and we have to push back against that.
Go ahead. You got your hand up? Go ahead.
That's it. Yeah, one of the things you guys talked about, which was the Lucky Saturday. Let me tell you one of the things that I've been trying to, push. I tried to raise these issues within a lot of other issues and departments. There is particularly one department that I know of, and that is currently here in New York, which is the state police. They conduct their interviews in a way that I believe every department in the country should do. If you're going to become a supervisor, yeah, you scored well, you got 100 on the test, but this should be part 2 of the test. And part 2 of the test is the interview. Yeah, you got the written right because somebody fed you the answers. But now when you go into the room, part 2 is, can you explain how to get out of this particular scenario that we've now given to you? Can you articulate what needs to happen? And probably 7 out of the 10 people that got 100 on the exam would fail the practical portion of it or the interview portion of it because they're not good people or they don't know how to articulate. They don't know how to communicate well with people. And those are the people that are generally that have become supervisors that have poor people skills. So how do you now put this person and expect this person to respond appropriately in a moment of crisis, okay, when you need them to be that leader and they don't have no leadership qualities and they don't have no leadership skills? They got it up here, but I can't explain it to you, nor can I articulate it to you because that's not what's in me. And I think that's one of the things we also need to be looking at is that when we talk about changing the model and making some changes, listen, let's adopt something. We ain't got to reinvent the wheel. Let's look at what the state police have already done. You passed the written, now there's an oral. Can you pass the oral? And if you can't, based on the scenario we give you, okay, listen, we got a fire in the building. How you put the fire out? Oh, well, there's a fire extinguisher. When you start stammering and stuttering of that magnitude, that's what happens in real law enforcement. And I think that's what we need to eliminate. You can't articulate how to do the job, then guess what? It was nice that you got 100, but you didn't pass the oral. And then that's how we can vet out, better supervisors to be able to do the job across the board.
So let me ask all of you, so where do we go from here? We got all this national attention because of what happened to brother George Floyd. Everybody is paying attention now. Everybody's just talking to be talking. Yeah, we have a lot of those Cory Booker talking to be talking to be heard. But you know, there's a wealth of experience here. Where do we go now? What I don't want, what I've seen we were serious after every situation. We've had all these conversations. The media covered it and everything. And then it just went back to business as usual until there was another shooting. Now we are at a point right now, we can't let this go back to, if we let this go back to business as usual right now, it's our fault. You know what I'm saying? And people are hurting right now. We got to fight corona and corruption, pandemic, police, and crooked politicians. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to give the people some, where do we go from here? So I just want to hear that for the people listening.
One of the things we need to do is keep the light lit on civil justice. We can't let this go, like you said, AJ, we can't let this go away. We must stay engaged and we must stay involved in the world of social change. The other thing is, while that's going on, we all still need to meet. We need to meet and brainstorm on how do we affect change. One of the things that I say is we got to start, November 3rd is an election. We need to start right now thinking about who we're going to vote for. We need to start right now. And I'm talking about local elections because everybody's worried about Donald Trump, but not too many people worried about Mitch McConnell. Not too many people worried about your governor, your mayor, your city council.
Your district attorney.
The district attorney, wow. We need to get, right now, talk about voting and start the change from there. And then the other thing is, once they're in office, we need to say, hey, don't get comfortable. Let's talk about social change in our community. And let's do it now. All these presidential candidates talk about what they're going to do in the first 100 days. Well, in the first day, I want you to talk about civil rights. I want you to talk about changing some of the things in policing. I want you to do the change, not talk about it, be about it. And that's the thing. We need to stay engaged and we need to motivate and energize the people to not only, you know, one of my struggles were I had to register people to vote. And then the second struggle is I got to beg you to go out and vote. And that's unheard of. So I'm up here right now wondering, all those people that I registered, will they remember to go out and vote on November 3rd? Do I need to make a phone call? Or what do I need to do to remind you that this stuff that's going on in the world today is serious? So to answer your question, we need to talk about voting. And then after voting, then we need to talk about bringing that real issues to the table.
I just want to add, in New York, at least in New York, our primary, the Democratic primary is June 23rd, Tuesday, June 23rd. You ain't got to wait for November. We got the district attorney race right there. We got some state senator seats. We got a lot of local. Got some city court judges. We got a lot of local elections, and we need to get involved in that. And this year, at least in New York, I'm not sure where it is everywhere else, everybody's supposedly getting the opportunity to get an absentee ballot to vote. And you know what I'm saying, the form mailed to them. So, I mean, if that's the case, you got no excuse. It's going to be mailed to your house. You just got to fill it out and mail it back in. But you ain't got to leave your house. You know what I'm saying? So we need to, we definitely need to have that conversation. Brother Damon,
yeah.
Where do we go from here? No,
other brother. No, sorry.
Where do we go from here? Yes.
Well, I think that, we all need to really collaborate and we all need to understand each other's strengths and each other's weaknesses. And I think that, a meeting and really, like my man Jerome said, that is voting is so important, because what happens is, people want to cry after the fact. You knew the judge wasn't no good to begin with. You knew that ADA had never tried a case before, but yet you voted for him anyway because you thought and you heard that he was okay. No, that doesn't do anything for us. So I think that we need to get into that. And I also think that we need to make sure if any of us needs help addressing policy, addressing any kind of action, or addressing any kind of placement or vetting, I think this is the group that we need to really call upon. And I just put my my website up there, but you know, I can't do it all myself. I run around, I research, I make courses and all this different stuff. But you know, I may need help at some time. I get a bigger department, and they, you know, say, hey, listen, we need this. I may need some help. You know, and one of the things I really have to applaud Damon, because, you know, I was struggling at one point in time getting this doctorate degree, and I called upon Damon. I was like, look, man, you got to help me, man. And he gave me some really, really good recommendations to some people who also gave me some great information, and they were great people. And so, you know, calling upon each other, especially in time of need, we don't have to do it ourselves. We are a handful of people. And you know, myself and Alan, we have these conversations every day. So this is what we discuss. So we just have to find ourselves in each other's lap for help.
Well, just so you all know, as the editor of Black Westchester, at some point in time, I'm calling on all the Office of Information for a story or whatever. Brother Allen.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question. I don't know if this session today that we just had is being taped or whatever.
It's broadcasting live, and it is being recorded. Yes.
Okay, because that's good, because there's so many good recommendations that came out of this excellent group that it will be, you know, someone said, well, every time something happens, we come together, we have a discussion. So we need to document what came out of this group, and you know, assess them and see which ones we want to push forward going forward. All the things I've heard that come out of today, man, we've pretty much addressed almost every criminal justice issue that we can possibly address, especially concerning policing and the community. So there are many answers that we've already come to. Excuse me. So if we take a look at that and actually put that down and share that information out, what conclusion have we come to today? What issues have we contemplated addressing? What standards have we already begun to understand are the ones that we want to apply to the criminal justice system that benefits the communities of color and other communities? We need to crash that out from the information we got today. And that'll be your book right there. I mean, that'll be a guide. And I think that's important for every meeting, because I don't remember everything that was said today, but I'd like to be able to recollect it.
Well, just so you know, like part 1 and part 2, this is part 3, I will gather the video and I will post the video in its entirety on blackwestchester.com. So you can watch part 1, part 2, and this part. And you can watch them as frequently as much as you want, and you can share it with other people that you feel that need to see it. And that's the purpose of us doing this. So this is us documenting this right now with people that Damon, you know, reached out to in his circle to make this happen. Brother Darren.
Yeah, I'm here. You know, what I think needs to happen is that
basically following what everybody else just stated,
which was, we need to make sure that what we do put together is impactful. Like this video, particularly now, is 2 hours long, and we know that some people have very short attention span.
Attention span, yes.
Right. So what we need to do is make sure that whatever we put together, it could be in a video format and it could be in a verbal format. We got to make sure that it's impactful, powerful, and gets to the point with all of us, because I believe I agree with the other panelists, is that this panel was powerful, man. I mean, it was so much information. And sometimes you think that you want to say something, but somebody else says it before you, or you thought you were going to say something, and it comes from something. And that's what happened here today. Everybody everybody had their hammer today, you know, and everybody was nailing pretty hard. But I'll say this in conclusion is that just like you see a video, get to your phone, and it sees, pass this video because we need to make it go viral. Just like the video of George Floyd's death. We need to put something together that's powerful like that. That what we put together, that what we say is so impactful that when you send it out, that it's just like any other video. Yo, make this go viral. Because, these law enforcement professionals, They know what they know what they're talking about. And that's what we really need to do. So however we need to put that component together is we need to make it so that if we're going to use social media platforms, that platform will get this information out, and so that people can pass it around the country and say, yo, these brothers and sisters, you know, hit the nail on the head. You know, and kudos and shout out to Black Westchester. You guys are doing an outstanding job.
Thank you very much. And I purposely saved the sister for last so she can put the exclamation point on the whole situation. And she suggested all of y'all put your email addresses in the Zoom group chat, the private group chat off to the side, so y'all can all communicate with each other as well. Sister Shauna.
Thank you. All right now, because they found out the problem with handing me the mic at the at the march yesterday. So, but one of the things I said there, and I think we're saying it here, and I appreciate what Brother Damon said about, you know, we all have our lane. We all have our own expertise. And that's what I said to the crowd yesterday. I said, please, at this time, find your lane. You know, if it's law enforcement, training, recruitment, whatever, if it's healthcare, if it's housing, whatever, find your lane. We have groups, we can, you know, you see all these organizations now giving all this money to advocacy groups that have hobbled along for years because they were never fully funded. Shore them up, find your lane. When we talk about advocacy groups, and this we didn't talk about, but we can include it in whatever it is that we do. As officers, it should make us sick to our stomach that it takes 50 million different agencies like the Innocence Project, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, right? The Advancement Project, Police and Equity, the Equal Justice Initiative. If we have all these folks who have been wrongfully convicted, right? They're all getting exonerated. That means we did wrong on the front end. We're the front door, right? So that should be a problem to us. Fatal Force, you know, the database that came out after Ferguson with Wesley Lowery, who wrote the book, They Can't Kill Us All. And he started that database. We have fatal police shootings have been woefully underreported. I am dismayed by some of my coworkers who have been posting like erroneous data about how many unarmed people we kill every year. You know what I'm saying? And things like that. So I think, again, you know, that's how we get engaged. That's how we engage others, is reminding them, find your lane. Because you have to, I believe, like you said, we've been here 2 hours. Why? Because this is our stuff. We're passionate about it. So we stay and do the work because this is what we're about. And if people find their right lane, 2 hours don't mean nothing to them. 3 hours. Yeah, the first one was 3 hours, right? So they'll be about this work. And being involved, participatory defense. You all heard about that? Where people, it's almost like a court watch, but it's for people who have been charged with crimes. So our community members can start supporting others. Somebody mentioned, you know who the bad judges are. We know that these folks ain't no doggone good. Start being, you know, start holding them accountable and highlight the disparities in the sentencings that I worked in the prosecutor's office. It broke my heart. I go home crying many days because them people don't care. They didn't care about us. They trying to get to major trials. So we don't have a justice system. We have a plea system. That's it, a plea bargain system, right? So when we talk about, we don't have to, I love what you said, Damon, none of us, we don't have to do it by ourselves. We can't. We just can't do it by ourselves. I've been all over the country these last couple of years doing conferences, doing a workshop on recruitment and retention. So I know a whole lot of people now across the United States. I called them when I became the officer in charge of personnel. I realized, like you said, I don't have to recreate the wheel. I sat in that seat, and a person from 1985 could have come back and sat in the seat. They were processing, doing stuff the same way they did 1985, 1980. I was flabbergasted. So I started calling other agencies, other civil service, other police departments. We don't have to recreate the wheel. We do have to share our expertise and collaborate. I love that we're going to share our information so that we continue this going on. And yeah, so I know other folks to rope in. We can't let it die down. You said it, AJ. If this peters out again, it'll be our fault. That will be our fault. But for the first time with incidents like this, and if I'm repeating myself, I apologize. The major news outlets are calling us now. About time. They're calling us, instead of the usual suspects of FOP and all that. Again, they don't speak for us. So I think one of the things that is different now is that they're understanding if the problems are with our communities, Black, brown, poor, white folks, then you need to be talking to us. And I understand.
Oh, some of that is because there's so many damn news organizations. They got to find something different than what everybody else is doing. So, some of that ain't even just because they doing the right thing, huh?
I take it. If we can capitalize on it, I take what we gonna get. If it's to our betterment, if at the end of the day, in some form or fashion, our communities and the profession benefits. Thanks, guy. I've loved it.
So my partner Damon, I want to thank you for rounding up this panel. As with part 1 and part 2, definitely a wealth of information. Closing thoughts. Where do we go from here? Any words you got for the people? Unmute yourself. You muted yourself.
I want to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for taking this time out of their day. I know Darren, you got to run, man. But I'm humbled as always. And it's to see Black law enforcement, man. To see Black law enforcement that are conscious and willing to have the hard conversations and have solutions. Brother Allen, man, I joined the National Black Police Association in 1992. Roger Abel was my mentor, man. And let me tell you, talking to Roger, if you're talking with him for 10 minutes, he'll look at you and say, "You're not writing what I'm saying down. You're not writing what I'm saying down," because he was a wealth of information. And,
know him well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I was lucky to come in with brothers like y'all, man, to see strong Black law enforcement speaking truth to power. And I try to do the same, but I think nothing's changed because you fight for these Negroes, and when it's time to really show power, unity in numbers, and ain't none of these Negroes around, man. So it's unfortunate, but we've always had the answer. We've always had the answer since we've been in law enforcement. We had the solutions to this dilemma, and I've talked to some press, and they still want the drama, and they don't want solutions, right? Because solutions are hard. We're giving hard solutions to institutional change, and they really don't want that. They want feelings and drama and speaking to the soul of America. I told one lady, "How the hell are we gonna speak to the soul of America when we was brought here on a slave ship?" That doesn't make any sense, right? That doesn't really make any sense. So she didn't want to hear none of that. So I guess they wasn't calling me back. But the whole thing is, man, we're doing something, and it's great, and hopefully, God willing, we're gonna have something offline, man, and we're gonna talk about how we could put together something, not just for the institution, but for Black officers. I think Black officers have to understand their responsibility in this is just not to get overtime and get some benefits and get some nice stuff, right? Black people died for us to wear this badge, and we have a responsibility to do something.
Well,
yeah. Go ahead, brother.
I want to thank you again for putting this panel together. I want to thank all the panelists. a lot of people think that I'm a wealth of information. I walk around like I know everything, but it's because of conversations like this, and I learn something from every story I do that I do end up gathering all this information, and I have notes from all of y'all as well, from all three of these versions. I mean all three of these episodes. And I'm just proud to be in a position to be able to document this, to be able, like, everybody has to play their part. I can't do what a lot of other people is doing, but this is what I do. You know what I'm saying? So this is my involvement. You know what I'm saying? So I want to thank all of y'all for your time. I greatly appreciate y'all. I got everybody's email address. Anybody want contact? Everybody send me an email to blackwestchester@gmail.com. I'm sure Damon's going to put another one of these together, but as I said, for anybody who didn't see, all three are going, 1 and 2 are already on blackwestchester.com, and this will be up by the end of the day tomorrow, the latest. This will be up, and I'll make sure Damon sends it to all of y'all so y'all can share it with everybody. I don't know what we're going to end up doing with this because, like I said, this is a book in the making with all of this. I also have a book I'm doing on police brutality, so I've already been checking out some of the things y'all been saying. I'm about to quote some of y'all and reach out to some of y'all for that as well.
So listen, can I get a Black Westchester t-shirt?
No doubt. We gotta make that happen. We gotta make that happen.
We'll make it happen.
Something for free.
Matter of fact, we need to
people, right? Supposed to be e-commerce with black businesses, man.
Right. We actually probably need to do like a how to Black Westchester presents how to police the black community shirt, like for the series, like a shirt for the series or something.
Yeah, we could do that.
I'll pay for it. Listen, I got no problem paying for it. I just want to know how to get it so I can put it on my chest.
No doubt. Great.
I love that you said do the Black Westchester, how to police the black community, because we had these young brothers walking around yesterday after the march in the park with "fuck police brutality" on. I was like, I like that. I agree. And they said, yeah, now we're gonna get one that says "stop playing with us." So definitely, because if you have how to stop police brutality in the black community, I could be a vendor here.
Yeah, I like it.
No doubt. Any last words, Damon?
No, I want to thank everybody. My wife was calling me. My time is up fighting the power. Now I got to be a husband. So
no doubt. Everybody have a blessed day, blessed weekend. Please continue to stay safe. And remember, we are not out of this coronavirus situation. Yes. And I fear, everybody be careful that's out there. I fear in the next couple of weeks, we're going to hear some crazy numbers from all of this, stuff going on out there. I see a whole lot of people not wearing masks and stuff. So
stop playing with us.
Right. I got to spray. You come coughing near me, I'm going to spray you.
I'll see y'all later. Thank you all, and God bless.
All right. And with that, we are done.